Hi everyone. Um, I'd like today to look at Pesach from a little bit of a different angle than we usually do, and see what significance coming out of Egypt has in the rest of Jewish thought, the rest of human thought. And it links to a trip I took to Belgium a few years ago, and in the marketplace in Brussels, I bought a whole bunch of weights. Okay, I think these are to weigh diamonds. These are very exact weights that you would put in a scale. Why did I do that? Because of the verse that we're going to look at now. Uh, this is from the book of Leviticus, from Parashat Kedoshim, and it says the following: You shall not falsify measures of length, weight, or capacity. You shall have an honest balance, honest weights, an honest ephah and honest hin. Ephah and hin are types of measurements, and we're told here that all of them have to be exact and done honestly. And the verse finishes, I, the Lord, am your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt. You shall faithfully observe all my laws and all my rules. I am the Lord. And the question here is, what's the significance of God presenting this this law, which sounds very nice? Be honest in your business. Why does God present God's self as being the God who freed us from the land of Egypt? What's the connection between those two? And we have a very surprising midrash, which is quoted by the commentator Rashi, who says, Al menat ken, for this purpose. Okay, meaning, why did God take us out of the land of Egypt? In order that we be honest in our business dealings. And that's a surprising thing. We might not have thought that. We might not have thought that the reason for being freed from slavery and taken out was to be honest, but that's what it seems to be saying here. We can imagine one level of seeing this is that simply it doesn't make sense to command slaves anything, let alone being honest in their business affairs, because slaves don't control their actions. Slaves don't control their time. So part of being free means being able to be responsible enough to need to think about being honest or not, to have the possibility of being dishonest in order to have the choice to be honest, to take these commandments. Maimonides takes this theme as well, and he says in very strong language, he says, rejecting the commandment of fair weights is like a rejection of the exodus from Egypt. Likewise, anyone who accepts the commandment of fair weights is like one who accepts the reality of the exodus from Egypt, which is the source of all commandments. And this is making a very strong connection between fairness and having left Egypt. And you might not have thought that the place to think about the Pesach story would be in Maimonides' Laws of Theft, chapter 7, law number 12, but that's where we find this surprising connection being made. Okay? Leaving Egypt means accepting the law of fair weights, the law of honesty, the possibility or the obligation to be honest in business. And rejecting that is rejecting the whole Exodus narrative. And we have different commentaries on why that is. The Be'er Heitev says something nice and also brings the discussion forwards in a way. He says, anyone who falsifies measurements is covering up their behavior, and such a person thinks that there's no divine supervision over human actions. And so anybody who rejects this principle, that there is divine supervision, is like someone who rejects the Exodus, since at that time divine supervision was made most manifest with all those miracles and plagues and signs in Egypt. So what he's saying here, what I take from this, is that the Exodus narrative, the Pesach story, is where God was most obvious in the world. Okay? And ever since then, God has not been obvious in the world. So, living in a world where God is not obvious, you might think that you can cheat in life because it doesn't matter. Right? But not cheating is a way of seeing yourself as seen by God. Seeing yourself as being seen. And living a life where you feel seen is, on one hand, very scary. On one hand, very demanding. On the other hand, there's an intimacy and a responsibility and a purpose to that kind of life where you see yourself as being seen. And that's something that we're told on Pesach. On Pesach, again, we read the story where God was most manifest. We also have a verse which tells us that on Pesach, the people would go to the temple and it says, Lo yira'u panai rekam. The people should not be seen by God empty-handed. So on Pesach, we can see ourselves as most seen with all the implications of that, up to and including honesty. And that sense of being seen, which is most obvious on Pesach, should trickle out into the rest of our life every day. Every day, even when we think we're absolutely alone, even when we think it doesn't matter. Pesach teaches us that our life does matter, with all the wonderfulness of that and all the responsibilities of that. So, happy Pesach.